For the AKT, I'd done so many exams leading up to the AKT, and I'd spent so much time building the zero to finals content that my knowledge base was pretty good. I used essentially zero to finals content plus a question bank in the form of Pass Medicine. But you got to bear in mind, leading up to that, I'd been revising and done the MRCP exams. So that had given me a good baseline of medical knowledge. And I'd been preparing for the PEDS diploma and Obs and Gynae diploma. So my knowledge was quite good to start with, plus writing the zero to finals content. But when it comes to recommending people about how to prepare for the AKT, I think it's essential to have two components. One is actually studying, reading the content and studying it, and trying to get it to stick. And the second one is testing yourself with a question bank and with practice questions. If you do one or the other on their own, there's a good chance of failure. If you just read and you just study without testing yourself, first of all, you won't know where your strengths and weaknesses are. You won't benefit from something called the testing effect, which is where actually testing yourself helps to get information to stick in your memory. And you won't be prepared for the exam. But if you just use tests, you won't have that overall understanding of the topics and overall bigger picture that allows you to properly consolidate and organize information in your head. You'll just have little facts that you've picked up from the question banks. So you need a combination of the two. And that's my recommendation for any written exam, actually.
That's great. And I know that you're helping GP trainees with the AKT. Tell us about common things that you see, the changes from the people who may have failed the exam a few times and then they managed to pass it. What were the big changes in their approach besides what you've just said?
Yeah, actually, I just want to reiterate essentially what I just said. The things where I see people fail is, and the things where when I talk to GP trainees and I get nervous that they might fail, is a particular thing that people say is, I just use a question bank like Pass Medicine. And what I do is I just practice the questions, and then if I get it wrong, I read through the textbook section or the explanation under the question. And that seems to be really working well for me and keeps me interested and engaged. And when someone says that to me, I always get a bit nervous because I think you're not doing this properly and getting the bigger picture. The second thing that makes me nervous is when somebody seems a bit overconfident. If you may want to read about something called the Dunning-Kruger effect, where if you're feeling very confident for the exam, there is a good chance that you're on the, so it would be on the left-hand side of the Dunning-Kruger effect, where you're overconfident because you don't know how much you don't know. And what you'll find is that as you start to learn more and start to get more awareness of how much information there is out there, your confidence level will tend to drop dramatically. And then you end up in this thing called the valley of despair, where you think, oh my gosh, there's just so much to know. It's impossible for me to know anything. And if you're feeling like that, that's actually a good thing. If you're starting to feel like there's so much to know, I can't possibly learn everything, it means you're on the path to success. And then as you start to get your head around things and you think, okay, there is so much to know, I'm never going to know everything, but I'm feeling relatively confident on the basics here, and I'm going to go in with and give it my best shot. This is a good place to be at. But if you're feeling overconfident, that makes me a bit nervous.
I think that's very insightful. So if you're not worried about the exam, then you may need to worry. But if you're worrying about it, then probably you'll be okay then, because you're probably doing enough work.
When I've tried to learn a topic, I'll take the content that I'm trying to learn. As I go through it, I do something called effortful reading. The traditional note-taking way of doing things is to have your content there that you're trying to learn, maybe a textbook, and go through it with a highlighter, just highlighting important words. Or to have your notepad open next to it and just to essentially copy it without really thinking. So you could listen to music, you could have a conversation while you also copy out the content of the book. In contrast, my effortful reading technique involves having the content there, putting a piece of paper over the content, and then bringing the piece of paper down, read the heading that comes up. So, for example, the heading might be ECG changes in acute coronary syndrome. And then with that content covered, with your notepad open, just scribble down everything you can remember. So you're trying to actively engage your brain and recall that information before you read it. So you write down everything you can remember about ECG changes in acute coronary syndrome, then uncover it with your piece of paper and try to fix the errors that you got. So, I didn't remember that. Okay, I need to remember that for next time. I'll cover it back up and come back to it later and try and recall that thing that I knew that I needed to remember for later. And go through the whole textbook this way. It's incredibly effortful, but it really stimulates your brain to take notice of that important content and store it for later for your exams.
If you found this video useful, then I'm sure you're going to get a lot from watching this video. Click the video to watch it. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.